Hello, comic fans. Here's our Gray. I'm sitting tucked here in my thick jacket in my second favorite room. It's raining outside and pretty rural, pretty out there. And even though, how do you call the cloth that you put on your table? Tablecloth? It's pretty out there as well. But we have lots of this old stuff. That's actually cool somehow. And actually cool somehow, this is a real understatement, are the books that I'm talking about today of some out there artists, pretty backwoods-minded characters, and that's the reason why I love them. Robert Crumb, Norman Pettingill, of course the least famous of the bunch here, and Gary Panter. Let's start with this beautiful book here, Robert Crumb, the complete record cover collection. The hardcover and the slipcase with cutouts where you can see into the real cardboard cover here. It was put out in 2011 by one publisher called w.w.norton. Starting with some profound self-analyzation, typical Crumb style, where he discusses to himself how sane it is to be so obsessed with collecting anything but in particular records, and obviously coming up with the only fitting answer that it's not very sane, but that he will carry on nevertheless, regardless. So this book here shows off all the different sources of inspiration and ways Robert Crumb created his artwork, from the hippie influences or the hippie world to the stuff that was much closer to his heart, the old jazz people, the old jazz music, like here great harmonica performances of the 1920s and 30s. That's the stuff that is typical Crumb. Look how Robert Crumb drew himself here as a pretty caricature. And his band of the Sheep Suit Serenaders. And yeah, he played in this band for quite a long time, and I have some bootleg recording of that as well. I mean, it's old-time jazz. If you like this kind of stuff, it's really fun. Look at this pose here, hilarious. Can't say if he's the greatest musician in the world. Surely he isn't, but that's not what this kind of music is. In a way, it's like, yeah, old-time punk. You have your instrument and you go with it and just have some fun. And like this dude here. Lots of portraits of these musicians as distinct individuals and role models and people who just into the same thing as Robert Crumb is and has been. I mean, he's still around. And you will discover how Crumb switches styles to create a more fitting cover for the music within the sleeves here, like for these Les Primitives du Futur. I don't know about the music, but I get a pretty distinct impression of how this music may sound like. And here we have more old-style-y artwork. Like Robert Crumb, always when he could choose between older or future stuff, he always would choose the older stuff here. James Brown. I mean, this pose is a bit goofy over there. Bo Diddley. And here, pretty nice portrait of Frank Zappa. Lots of nice stuff here for drawing for the soundtrack of that Terry Zwigoff documentary about Crumb. So wonderful book with the wonderful art. Just fun art. And inspiring you to pick up some LP or CD or recording, whatever you have as a medium, or stream something of this music here and listen to it. And that's the idea behind all this cover artwork, I suppose. Here we have even some booklets that he designed. Nothing too fancy, but very with a very big love for the detail, as you can see here. And you can see why there are some collectors out there who hunt down this kind of Robert Crumb stuff here. These are drawings that I think you can find in the sketchbooks as well. So that was a lot of talking about this one, but I think this book has deserved this treatment, but the others here are not to sneeze at either. And Robert Crumb actually is a good segue to this second book here, and this is an art book by Fantagraphics called Norman Pettingill, and for good reasons. The subtitle reads Backwoods Humorist. It has an introduction, even though a very short introduction, by Robert Crumb. Norman Pettingill was really a backwoods artist living in a small town called Iron River in Wisconsin, founded by his grandfather, end of the 19th century. He himself was born in 1896, I guess, and he later on, after the Second World War, he created artwork for postcards, big postcards, I guess 7-inch square, 10-inch somehow, and and Fantagraphics made this fantastic book here, which puts the term hardcover on a new level, because this is actually wood, or how do you call this kind of wood? A plywood. So it's really hard. And just a nice idea to make your book some kind of special, and it fits the art and the essence of these creations very well. Here in the beginning you have a new take on the old Orpheus theme, a bit off, of course, like almost each drawing from Mr. Pettingill is a bit off, but that's the joy of this kind of art. Here we have a letter he has written to Robert Crumb when he was 90. So here we have the aforementioned short introduction of Robert Crumb. And when he was 90, he looked this way. Yeah, age can be the devil, because actually I really like to imagine him, think of him more as this cool guy here, together with his little family, wife and kids in the wild. This is a collage, of course, like he did. This kind of bit folksy kitsch, if you will, and here we have him creating some stuff there, and he has a very basic humor, so it's no wonder that Johnny Ryan, of all the people, did an afterword for this book here. It is very fitting. And I hope you can see this. The reprinting, the print quality of this book here is gorgeous. You can see all the dense hatching line work and this correction he made to his drawings with white out and stuff like that, and all the ridiculous details here. There are no comics in it. These are just one picture artworks. You may call this kind of art here almost a cartoon in a way. but it's very comic related, I think. Yeah. You have to like and dig this kind of crude humor. There are some more idyllic depictions of the wild out there, but always with this kind of skew obsession for the detail that you sometimes find with these outsider artists, and that give their artwork this kind of appeal. You really get the feeling that he loved to be out there in the nature of Wisconsin, and even though he mocks his human neighbors and villagers quite a bit, but it seems just he had a fun life out there, and it's just a fun book. But actually, who wants to draw the line between high, fine art all the time and outsider art, which is pretty ridiculous, especially when you look at these fine drawings here, which could be easily seen as well as some new versions of these genre drawings and scenes from one of the Bruegels, for instance, and one of the Flemish or Dutch masters. On the bottom line, this book here is overflowing with stuff that is just a joy to look at, and highly recommend it. I mean, you see what you will get. If you're not in this into this kind of stuff, don't get it. Otherwise, hunt it down. Not each and every book that I show here in one of my videos is made for everyone, I guess, and this goes without saying. And if there would be a list with artists that are not for everyone, I'm pretty sure that Gary Panter would be a nominee for that list. That said, I didn't have to think thrice before buying this book here. I thought, to be honest with you, twice about it because it's really expensive. Yeah, I think it's a fair price given the hilarious production qualities of this book here, with these gold foil applications on the top and the huge oversize of it. Yeah, it's a fair deal, but regardless, it's what it is. It's a comic book, like this one here, that's tucked in the sleeve over here, which is a very nice touch. The book here is actually nothing more or less than the artist edition for this book here, so it reprints the same story, just a lot bigger, and artist edition style. So you can see these underdrawings here and there, and the annotations on the frame here and there, and generally, because it's bigger, some pages look real gorgeous. My favorite page here is lots of pages that look good on your wall as a poster, I think. But this is pretty cool as well. The story within this book here, you can divide this roughly in 3 parts. So it's sort of a trilogy. The first one here is concerned with hippie tropes, as all the theme of the book here is taking a kindly mocking, but tender mocking on hippie culture. So we have in the back lots of recommendations for books about underground / hippie / ecology-aware literature and stuff like that. So the first one here is the loosest of the stories in this little book. Even though for Gary Panter's story it's quite on the more coherent side of things. You have this narration going through and the pictures as some kind of commentary on these phrases or ideas that we associate with hippie culture. So some sirens going off. I hope you're not too disturbed. This happens every weekend here. Let's see. And the main story is very coherent and for Gary Panter almost a very conventional story about these guys going to a pub and getting some drugs out from this guy here and using the stuff here, having some hallucinations and mind adventures, if you will. So, and this book here is really a joy to look at, of course, but if you want to pay the money for it, you have to choose for yourself. I absolutely don't regret it. That much can I tell you. Because, I mean, how crazy is this, getting an artist edition of Gary Panter? This is just for me such a reason to celebrate, like all these 3 parts autobiography of S. Clay Wilson. I mean, you have really to have a publisher like Fantagraphics going for this kind of stuff, else the world wouldn't see it. So, thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.